This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
The Dallas Cowboys select Tyler Smith.
And now, your host, Kyle Yeomans.
Today is Thursday, February 23rd, as we are 64 days away from the NFL draft in Kansas City.
Don't say that again, because Aisha's going to throw up.
Why is that?
She's already counting the days. I know it.
That's how I start the show.
I know, but you're putting her on nerve alert. Is what you're doing right now.
64 days away.
I almost just
saying
fell,
it with confidence.
Yeah.
Just fell out of the chair.
Stop trying to put my applesauce up. I almost bust my head.
Applesauce?
Yes, I'm a
You got
child.
applesauce
It's okay,
in
no
the
big
studio
deal.
this
chopping
morning?
it up? Yeah.
I almost bust my ass. I almost just fell, y'all.
Well, glad you didn't. You stayed upright, and it's time to break down some draft prospects here on the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite. We've got Bobby Belt, Brian Broaddus, Zach Wolchuk, all three from 105.3 The Fan. We've got DallasCowboys.com's own Aisha Morrison. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Glad you're with us. And yesterday we did a lot of Tell Me More. Talked a lot about specific prospects. We did some Would You Rather. We heard about different prospects that could potentially emerge over these next couple of months. Today I want to talk about the NFL Combine.
Oh.
The National Scouting Combine starts next week in Indianapolis, and there are going to be some prospects that shine out in Indy. And Bobby, I know you've got your finger on the pulse of a lot of these guys already. I want to know some potential Combine explosions. Who's going to really test well?
Oh, there's several guys. There's the guy we were just talking about before the show started that Brian was getting very sad about. Trenton Simpson from Clemson. He's going to test really well, I think.
I bet he will.
That's a scout's eye right there.
I think that, and there's been some chatter about this. I know we were talking about this during the break yesterday, but, you start hearing some chatter that Lucas Van Ness is going to test really well from Iowa, which I don't know. Does he
Is that
look
a good grunt?
Does he look like elite testing when you watch him?
No.
I don't see an elite tester like when he's playing.
I'll tell you, I think we're gonna do an episode one day of the guys that you have the biggest chance to be wrong about.
Ooh, let's do that.
I mean,
he could be up there.
Yeah, because you guys, I mean, I'm talking to my teammates here, my scouts in the room, and we're chopping up these players pre-show, and you guys got me scared.
You've got me nervous. Scared over who?
That lady over there's got me nervous too with
Why?
what she's looking at. But anyway, I think that Van Ness, I could see an Iowa guy testing well.
Okay.
I absolutely could. And Aisha said this because she said this earlier in one of our episodes. You watch these kids from Iowa play, they are good. They are good, fundamentally sound players. They work extremely hard. They struggle on offense a little bit, but other than that, they're really, really a good program. I just kind of feel like that he's a kid that's going to go to the combine and do well. He's probably working out. The minute the season ended for Iowa, he was probably working out, getting ready for the combine.
Yeah, so, I think Christian Gonzalez is going to test really, really well.
Yeah.
Corner from Oregon.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
A guy that I think will perform really well, who's not necessarily going to be up near the top for people. He's not going to be a household name, is Trey Dean at Florida.
Okay.
Trey Dean, in fact, he was at the Shrine Bowl. I saw this yesterday, which is interesting because I know he's going to test well. And this was from the Shrine Bowl. Trey Dean was in the 99th percentile of Breakaway's database for hip flip time. And that's a metric that captures how smooth and oily a DB's hips are. So it's basically chip tracking to kind of figure out who's most efficiently flipping their hips and can do that. And he's up near the top of that. I think Byron Young from Tennessee is another one that's going to test really well, a little bit of a shorter edge. And then obviously you've got
Byron
guys,
who again, please?
Byron Young.
Young, thank you.
Yes, edge from Tennessee. And then I think, you've got the obvious ones like I mentioned, Christian Gonzalez, Trenton Simpson. You've got Will Anderson, who I think will test really well. So those are some of the guys that I think stand out as guys we could see really blow things up this week.
Zach, when you're looking at some of these players and you're going through and you're watching the tape and the film, the Iowa linebacker was the first one, the Van Ness, who you guys were just talking about. You didn't like the way that he looked on film compared to the way he might test.
Sure.
Are there any other guys like that where on film they look like X, but in the combine they're going to explode and they're just going to play a lot better, or they're going to test a lot better?
I think a guy like Rashee Rice, right at receiver, not fast,
SMU.
not fast, and he's a guy that on tape also, like, I don't think that's a dude that's going to test well. I don't think his numbers are going to be very good. But to me, you throw him the football, he's just going to go get it. He's just a guy that performs. The production's there. I think there's a lot of linebackers in this class that I don't know how they're going to, like Jack Campbell.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Another Iowa kid.
Is Jack Campbell a guy that's going to test well? But I think he might be one of the best, if not the best, linebackers in this class. And it's not a good linebacker class, in my opinion.
Could Ringo from Georgia be that guy? That you watch the tape and you kind of like, oh, man, I don't know. I don't know. And then he makes a play. I mean, he's kind of a little bit of an off and on player, but maybe he's going to measure really well. He's gonna probably do the short shuttle. I mean, the quickness stuff.
Yeah, I think
for a big guy, it's going to be impressive. Him running around in t-shirt and shorts.
I think the difference is like the athleticism with Ringo. It shows up. Like I don't think it's like a lack of athleticism when you watch Ringo's problems on tape. In fact, I feel like a lot of times he's got like makeup speed on things where it's like he's clearly blown a coverage or gotten beat or something like that. The difference for me with somebody like Van Ness, who I mean, everybody has been talking about how he will go out there and he's going to test pretty well, and that he should be one of the bigger stars of the combine week with his testing. That's interesting to me because when you watch him, I mean, I think you see decent athleticism, but I didn't see him on tape and go, oh my gosh, this is a standout. But to be fair, I also remember not thinking, even though I liked him as a player, I remember not thinking T.J. Watt was going to test like one of the most athletic edge rushers of all time. And so it may be a case, where because Watt was asked to do a lot of the push-pull technique and wasn't, showing that off.
Great example right there.
And so, I mean, it could just be that. It could be that Van Ness is a guy similar to Watt and that he'll go out here and he'll put up insane numbers and go, okay, he just wasn't given a chance necessarily to display that with the way he was playing.
Let me ask you guys this, the Iowa thing, because we've struggled a little bit, like with Golston. Chauncey Golston with the Cowboys. I thought he was a player that you couldn't run outside on him. When he was at Iowa.
Yeah. I
wonder if scheme hurts some of these kids. That doesn't make them shine like they probably should shine.
Sure.
I mean, maybe not just Iowa, but have you guys watched some players? I'm not asking you to name guys, but we feel like scheme hurts them a little bit. Like, man, this player could be better if they weren't having to two-gap this thing all the time. And I mean, the two-gap where you extend, you look inside, you look outside, and then you get rid of blockers. If you just let this guy go and play, he'd be a much better player than
well,
that.
And to your point, I actually touched base with Chauncey Golston this season and kind of asked him, like, I saw him really emerging at DT and seeing success there. And I asked him just kind of how was, playing edge and how different that was. Because I know I was under the impression, same thing, like, oh, this is a great edge defender. And I still think he is a good edge defender. But I remember asking him, like, how different is it for you? And he was just like, you're on an island at DN. And I think it's also different at DN now because of how many mobile quarterbacks there are in the league now and how much the RPO and run action has become an emphasis in offenses depending on which offense you're going against. I think that's a big thing that's kind of changing the DN position and just how sound you have to be there because it could be curtains for you. We saw a lot of offenses attack edges in the run game this year, and I think that's because of just the fact that these DNs are having to adjust to how much they're being ran at. Like, people not just run up the middle like that now.
Can I ask you a real quick question then? Okay, when you guys are all watching defensive ends, do you want the guy like Tank Lawrence who plays both well, or you want the guy that's the pass rusher?
Ooh,
well, see, that's a Van Ness, right? Like, Van Ness, I think, does both really well.
Yeah.
But I think he might be limited in his pass rush ability.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm a little bit hesitant when you talk about a first-round pick. I think you might want a guy that gives you a little bit more of a skill set and his ability to rush the passer. But I do think he does. I think he's a good all-around player, and maybe that's why people like him. And maybe if he tests really well, that answers some of your questions on that. He does have explosiveness. He does have some of that burst that where you think, okay, he does have some more tools. And to your point about the scheme, maybe that's why. Maybe he's been boxed in and hasn't been able to showcase some of that. I also think another thing is a lot of these guys are standing up. right? They're in that 3-point stance. You don't see a lot of hand in the ground for like Tyree Wilson's a good example of that, Texas Tech outside linebacker.
Yeah.
And in the NFL, a lot of these dudes now sometimes like Micah Parsons is a good example of this.
Yeah.
They're having him stand up. Maybe the NFL's kind of transitioned to this, but it seemed like the Cowboys were worried about that with TJ Watt. You didn't get to see him put his hand on the ground and play that, stationary 4-3 defensive end. A lot of these guys, even a Deion White from Georgia Tech, he's standing up on the outside. He's not doing that prototype, put your hand down and go rush the passer.
When you talk about a scheme hurting a player, Micah Parsons was in that category. If he would have shown any type of pass rush ability on his Penn State tape,
I challenge anybody to find him rushing the passer on Penn State tape other than blitzing.
That's the
I
point.
really would, yeah.
He would be the number 1, number 2, number 3 pick in that draft. He wouldn't have made it anywhere close to the Cowboys at 12. It would have never happened. And you can talk about maybe the opposite way around. Look at it. We mentioned a little bit of Isaiah Simmons prior to the show because we were talking about Clemson linebackers in the draft. But Isaiah Simmons was a guy who benefited from the scheme. But then whenever he got to the NFL, they thought his traits would translate. He's still in the NFL. He's a decent player, but he's not that top 10 guy that they initially thought they were getting in Arizona.
I don't know if I have more trouble, Aisha, with the Will McDonald's and the Nolan Smiths as I do the other guys.
So Nolan Smith, Georgia, and Will McDonald, Iowa State.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out, do I want that 235, 240-pound guy like that, or do I want a guy that's got a little bit more stoutness to him? That's the struggle I run with every day. And now with teams going back to running the ball, and to your point about the way you play the RPOs, and these guys are flying up the field, and they take these guys' ability to get up the field away from them because they're fooling them with the way the offensive scheme is.
Yeah, I mean, so when you mentioned, Will McDonald's my dude. That's my dude. So and when you talk about edge, that's something that, I've been trying to really working through as I'm watching them is okay, so what's the pursuit like? Yeah. What's the effort like? Even if this guy isn't super stout against the run, is he trying? Is he, because I wonder if it's going to become a discussion of do you pick or choose? Are you going to pick the guy that's pass rushy, or are you going to pick the guy that is going to be able to stop the run as well, or vice versa? Because like we just talked about, it feels like the DN position is being asked. It's always been asked to do a lot, but now these guys coming in are doing. I think they're being asked to do more than what they're used to at this point.
That's a great point. And putting all of those different elements together, there's 4 or 5 guys right up at the top of the edge rusher class that are names that you'll hear quite a bit. Will Anderson, Alabama. Miles Murphy from Clemson. Tyree Wilson, we've mentioned him a couple times, from Texas Tech. Lucas Van Ness from Iowa. Nolan Smith. B.J. Ojulari. Isaiah Foskey, Notre Dame. B.J. Ojulari, by the way, LSU.
LSU, yeah.
Out of those guys, who do you feel like does have the most versatile skill set? Out of the guys that you've watched in that group of edge rushers, who has that most unique skill set? Because like Zach said earlier, that may be the guy that goes in the first round and makes some noise.
Name them again. Who are they?
So Will Anderson, Miles Murphy,
Okay.
Tyree Wilson, Lucas Van Ness, Nolan Smith, B.J. Ojulari, Isaiah Foskey. Those were the ones I named. If there's somebody else,
So
you
most
can pull it out too.
well-rounded.
Yeah, most well-rounded out of those guys.
I mean, in terms of playing both well, Van Ness does play both well. I think he's complete. He doesn't have a total hole in his game. I mean, Tyree Wilson's probably going to go in the top 5 for
Wilson's my guy. Wilson's my guy.
Wilson to me, I think, is going to be that's the guy that I think plays the run really well while still has huge upside as a pass rusher.
Does he have that effort that Aisha's talking about? That willingness to go in and blow up the run?
Yeah, I think so.
I felt like
I think Tyree Wilson absolutely
Yeah,
does.
the thing about when you watch Wilson play, to me, when these defensive ends and stuff, his ability to get up the field and then retrace.
Yes.
So when somebody all of a sudden, that's the thing you worry about if you're a pass rusher, and all of a sudden the ball runs inside, but you're flying up the field. Now you've got to turn and run back to get to the ball, like Isha's talking about right there. That's the thing I think you get with Wilson. 6'6", 275, that's the numbers I'm working with right now.
Yep.
I see a disruptive guy. And when I mean disruptive, pass rush disruptive, tackle behind the line of scrimmage disruptive. Yeah. This guy, there's a lot to like about him. On my board personally, I got him above Anderson, and I think Anderson's a hell of a football player.
There are
really do.
There are going to be several teams that have Tyree Wilson above Will
Right.
Anderson.
I think if you're a position coach, like you're salivating over this guy because I think he's got the most unique skill set. He's got all the traits, and you're thinking, if I can get him into my room, oh my gosh, what can I do with this guy? Because Brian's right. Like, even if he seems out of position, if he gets caught up field, that length that he has, you think he's out of position to make a play. All of a sudden, he's diving. This guy makes up 3 yards in the blink of an eye. Yeah. It's crazy. And he has a unique ability with his left hand to then get an offensive tackle off balance. He comes back and rips. It's a thing of beauty to get a guy to all of a sudden get a sack. I mean, Tyree Wilson is a fun watch. I also love Miles Murphy from Clemson.
Yeah, I am too.
Talk about him.
Miles Murphy is just I think he's the size, 6'5", 263. Sometimes he gets pushed off the ball, but he can play both sides. He can play the right and the left side. He's got long arms. He's built to play the position. He's also got a high motor. This is a dude that doesn't quit on the play, can chase plays down from behind. He's got, he's long around the edge. I think he sets up tackles well. He sometimes can get caught out of position in the run game, but he's always in the backfield. I think he's also a disruptive player, like we talked about Tyree Wilson. And to me, he's got that hand movement.
Yeah.
I think a lot of linemen, as we talk about, and Aisha, you brought this up as well, what sets some of these guys apart in college is their hand play. And I think Miles Murphy has that to his advantage, and he can take that and he can hit the ground running, transitioning from as a rookie to the NFL.
I think one of his best traits, too, is he's always swiping at the ball. You get him in the pocket, you start talking about turnovers and stuff. He has they must work on that a lot at Clemson because he has a feel for where that ball is, and he's hammering on it.
Would it be crazy to put Murphy in front of Will Anderson? Is that too much to ask? Because Anderson, like you said, I like him as a player. I've got Anderson above Murphy right now. But I've thought about the switch, at least. I've had that I've had it in I've played around with it on my spreadsheet a little bit to flip those two guys. Which one would you rather have if you were in a GM shoes? Between Miles Murphy and Will Anderson.
Anybody want to answer that one?
I'd want Anderson. I mean, all three of these guys, Wilson, Murphy, Anderson, they're all like very high upside guys. I think there's still a little bit more of a projection with Murphy in terms of he's got to become more of like a polished pass rusher.
Yeah.
Because I think at times he just wins with being a freak.
Right.
And so for me, I think he's still got to show that he can build out that toolkit. Like for me, Will Anderson's there. Like Will Anderson's one of the more advanced rushers I feel like in the class. And so to me, that's more of a sure thing. I know what I'm getting there. It's a little bit of the question of you remember it years ago, Brian? It was, who am I thinking of? Okay, so it was like, you remember the comparison as rushers between like a Joey Bosa and a Noah Spence? How they were. And like Bosa was the tactician who was like, he may get 10 sacks a year, but like there's no telling how much better he's going to get. I think Will Anderson's just a safe, will come in here, will rush the passer immediately. And Miles Murphy is a much more high upside type of guy potentially.
Yeah, I mean, y'all already know, like, Will McDonald's my dude. He kind of put on a clinic at the Senior Bowl. And I'm really into multiple sport players.
Yeah.
Like, this guy skateboards, he surfs, he plays soccer, he's a martial artist. You can see it in his
Renaissance
play.
man.
You can see it in his play. You can see how versatile he is. You talk about the hands and what he can do there. And he's even his stance. His stance in itself is going to give tackles, to me, problem because he's almost to the ground, but he's not always to the ground. Like, I think he is a guy that can come in and stand up, and the pursuit is really there for him. Personally, I feel like he's going to move up some people's boards if he performs well.
Would you put him in that conversation?
I would not. I don't. So I like watching I like watching when we get a top tier edge rusher against a top tier tackle or something like that. And like I think you saw consistently with McDonald going up against Skoronski. He was just stonewalled every single time. And that's why McDonald to me is one of these guys who's going to have to test really well this week.
Yeah.
Like, because you need to see the confirmation of, okay, there's the athleticism. We know all that about it. Because if he comes out here and he tests just average as an edge defender or whatever else, and then you couple that with he's a smaller guy who, when he goes up against some of these bigger tackles and they get their hands on him, he's out. He's out whenever he gets locked up by linemen. And Skoronski put him on the ground 4 times, I think. It was that always gives me some pause when I see one guy dominate the other from a top tier
And that's
class.
what I was looking for. But I will say that's what I was looking for in the Senior Bowl. These guys are allowed to get better, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
looking at quite a few of these guys, because that was actually one of my notes on him when I was watching film on him, is like, if you get your hands on him because he's undersized, he can have some issues. Can he counter? Yeah. But Senior Bowl, he came out and he showed the ability to get off of some of this stuff and disengage. So again, I do agree with you. He is going to have to perform well at the combine, but there's improvement there, and the athleticism is just so through the roof that you're going to get something from him. Kobe Wooden Wooden from Auburn?
Yeah.
Yep.
I like that dude too. They play him everywhere. He's a crap talker. But he's so disruptive.
6'5", 285.
Yes.
He's a big dude.
And so he's hard to move around. You can't just push him off the line like we were talking about. I think sometimes his over pursuit can hurt him, but obviously that's normal DN stuff. So I'm like, if he can square his hips, and find the body control, I feel like his build and his burst off the line is something to look for too. So the gentleman from Auburn is someone I'm looking at also.
I think you nailed the guy. I really do. I think I mean, to me, he looks more like a left end than he does a right end. And when I say that, when I mean left end, is to me the right end's usually that guy that's screaming off the edge. We're talking about the guy that can play the run and the pass.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think she's got Wooden right as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Well-rounded.
Yeah,
Do
absolutely.
a little bit of both.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They play him from everywhere. Like if you have a hand techie guard or center, like they can hang with him maybe at nose, but at DN he's a problem.
Yeah.
Well, at 285, you can play any spot on the line if you've got.
Well,
some
that's the thing about it
athleticism.
is for teams it might be a little bit more of a 3-4. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
morphs into these different fronts and stuff like that. But if you put him as like a head up end on a tackle, he could play. This guy, I mean, like I say, if you're expecting him to be that, like what she was talking about with with McDonald, something like that, screaming off the edge, that's not this guy. He's better. He can. I think that the thing about him is he can play with power, and he could do those things. And he does have some lateral quickness to him in the stuff that I was watching.
All right, rapid fire here before we take our first break. The player you're most excited to watch in Indianapolis. Go, Bobby.
Christian Gonzalez.
Oregon corner.
I'm interested to see Hyatt, the wide receiver from Tennessee.
Dang it.
I should
Brian.
let you go first.
No,
I'm sorry about that.
that's okay.
Zach.
I think Nolan Smith's going to tear it up. I'm pretty pumped to watch Nolan Smith out of Georgia.
Okay. Took your guy.
You go.
You can say it again.
No, you go.
You want me to go?
You go, I'm
Do
looking.
you liked Hyatt was your guy?
He was one of the dudes. Like, I'm gonna ask y'all. Did DeJuan Jones get invited?
DeJuan Jones?
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
mention no. He got invited.
I believe so, yeah.
Oh,
So-
really quickly, correction, because I just got texted.
Uh-oh.
Penning, when he went against Penning last year is what I said. I said
Skoronski
Skoronski,
was
apparently.
Northwestern.
I was saying Skoronski.
Yeah.
Penning is who I was thinking
Northern
of.
Iowa from
Because I
last
was going to say,
I
yeah,
went
they
to
didn't
college there. That's funny. My bad.
Northern
You and
Iowa?
I?
That's really awkward. Yeah, but I did.
Yeah, Penning was a dude last year. I mean,
Yeah, I
that was
remember.
a beast.
But-
yes, DeJuan Jones did get invited.
He's a gentleman that I'm kind of. Me and Brian have been talking about, but
Yep.
like.
O-line 26.
He's starting to. I mean, obviously, he had his one day showing in the Senior Bowl, and he kind of got it there. But obviously, his measurables, he's huge, he's whatever. So I just kind of want to see how he performs because I think he could be a guy that people start really looking at as a serious person. Too.
These massive one techniques too are guys I'm interested in. I know it's funny to say
Yeah.
big guys. I want to see these guys.
I love
like-
it when big guys run.
Yeah,
man.
with the
me
big guys
too.
with the
Oh,
speed
yeah.
and that
Giant
stuff. Like,
humans.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know if Dallas will take it, but the one thing that they maybe looked at this year is they saw what Hankins what did for him,
Say it.
and maybe they'll figure out that like having one of these big one techniques will make a difference.
I want to watch the Pitt interior defensive lineman that you like.
Cansey,
Yeah, Kalijah Cansey.
Oh, yeah, I was
wanna
watching
see if
him
he
earlier
tests
today.
well. Because like you said, he's a little smaller,
Mm-hmm.
6 foot, 280. I want to see if he tests well. I want to see him get out there
he
to
will.
the Underwear Olympics and have some fun with it. All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, it's time for some Twitter on the 20. We'll take your Twitter questions right after this with more of the Draft Show.
Hey Cowboys fans, if you're looking for a full-time or part-time job, check out Liberty Tax, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. If you've got tax experience and want to help your community with their finances, you're the perfect candidate. No tax experience? We also offer in-person tax school courses locally. Liberty Tax has 79 locations across DFW and 2,300 offices nationwide. Learn more about our job opportunities at libertytax.com/hiring or call your local Liberty Tax office today.
Craving something flavorful? Replace that bloated burrito feeling with Smoothie King's new Power Meal Smoothies. With 3 delicious flavors like cinnamon banana, blueberry raspberry, and spinach pineapple, you can fill up on flavor, not calories. Each meal replacement smoothie is packed with 20 grams of protein, 7 grams of fiber, and 23 vitamins and minerals, all under 350 calories with 0 grams of added sugar. So next time you want something flavorful, swap fast food for a Power Meal Smoothie. Order today on the Smoothie King app. Smoothie King, the official smoothie of the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboy player and Super Bowl champion. When I played in the NFL at a high level, I relied on my vision to see the field. As I started getting older, I noticed my vision wasn't as good, and I was getting frustrated from wearing my glasses all day. I went to Laser Care Eye Center, and Dr. G talked about all the options. Thanks to technology and Laser Care Eye Center, I can see near, far, and between. Don't fumble your vision any longer. Visit them at dfweyes.com and tell them Darren sent you. They got me back on my game.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the Draft Show, presented by Miller Lite. We are live from the SWBC studios at the Star in Frisco. It's time now for one of your favorite segments. It's time for
Twitter on the 20.
Back again, just like we were yesterday. All right, we've got some good questions that have kind of worked their way in over these last couple of days. I'm trying to pull them up at the moment. First question, and it has to go with the Combine again. Is there anybody that you don't expect to test well? Kind of the opposite of the question we asked in the first segment. Anybody that you don't think will test well?
Most of the linebackers.
Brian?
Well, most of the linebackers?
Yeah, some of them.
You don't like this linebacker class?
No, I think they're.
Tight ends and linebackers. Aisha hates them.
That's not true. I think a lot of them are instinctual and stuff, but you're not going to be able to see that, with them just running and stuff like that. So, like we were talking about earlier, we'll see. I mean,
Yeah, the linebackers aren't very good.
Can I know he's lost
not.
weight, and I know he gets mocked to the Cowboys all the time.
Uh-oh.
what you gonna
Torrance from Florida.
Osiris Torrance.
say? You wanna
Yeah.
see how he,
Just
he
the
tests?
weight number?
Oh, he's not going to test well.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I think there's going to be those drills where they put him in a 2-point stance, and then they run a guy up the field, and you could see the ones that do the kick slide and get depth and get width and all that. He's trying to lose weight. He really, really is. And maybe that's not his bag right now, the athletic stuff. We've talked about, and we're showing highlights where he's kind of moving. He's moving decently right there. But I don't know how he's going to look in T-shirt and shorts moving around out there. I just don't think that's his game. And, Cowboy fans will probably – I remind everybody about Orlando Brown when he came out where he
Don't
didn't
say that.
where he looked – no, he didn't look very good.
Not Orlando.
But he's a good player.
But he's a really good player.
I mean, Orlando Brown is the exact type of testing I was thinking of.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was saying. Like
to the point
don't
where
say
you're
that.
cringy. You're cringing. You're like sitting there and you're like, oh, please, dude, get out of your stance. Don't. Oh, please don't. That's the thing I worry about. He is a very good player. I don't think he is going to look good in T-shirts and shorts moving around.
That's why I want to see DeJuan too. That's similarly. Go ahead. But
no,
go ahead.
but to your point, I'm kind of wondering the same thing about
He goes to school at Florida, by the way.
Steve Avila, the TCU guard.
Yeah.
He's also a guy that I like, but athletically, I didn't really see a stud athlete there.
He's a techie guy.
Right.
Yeah, he knows the technique.
Does a lot of the little things well, but he's not a dude that moves. I question, can he be a pulling guard?
Yeah. The guy that will test the best, though, is our guy, John Michael Smits. The center from
No,
center.
stop. Okay, but
Absolute
does he
stud.
have flex? Like, could you move him to guard?
People ask me that on Twitter. I got a Twitter question this
That was
morning.
one of the
Because
Twitter.
if you
Yeah.
can move him to guard, I may not.
Take him, 26, take
I
him.
may not fight you on it.
Take him.
At 26?
Yes, I might not fight you.
But you would
on
only
it.
To
move
me,
him-
it's just a
would you
pure
move him
stud.
there for just a year? Would it be a Tyler Smith thing where you move him there for a
Trying to
year?
replace a
get
Pro
him-
Bowl center? You
Well,
got-
You so petty.
no, you're going to have to pay that Pro Bowl
Yeah,
center.
that's going to be a topic of conversation.
We said this yesterday. They weren't going to take the best center in the draft last year.
Nope.
Do you think they do it again? I would. I'll tell you what. At 26, I would hand the card in on that kid.
I think
Over
he's awesome.
Torrance?
And just slide.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Just for the athletic ability alone.
Dude, he's a difference maker on
Yeah.
your offensive line.
Yes.
Like he can change your tone, he can change but like just to have that much power and just like ferocity coming at you at that position. If you want to run the ball, yeah.
Is there a possibility? Just a possibility. We're hyping up John Michael Schmitz quite a bit.
Minnesota.
From Minnesota. We're hyping him up quite a bit.
The film.
To be
The
at
film
26,
hypes himself.
It does. It's good film. But when you get it up to 26, is there a possibility he slides into the latter part of the second round for you?
Sure.
So what would you do if you picked him in the second round?
I'd be doing a pizza party.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
a break dance.
Ice cream party, whatever that.
Miller Lite party?
I was going to
break
say
dance with
Miller
Miller Lite's
Lite?
already been claimed.
Let's go. Okay,
You
I'll
can't
find out
copy
whatever
that.
whatever John Michael Schmitz's favorite food is.
Okay.
We'll have that party for him.
What is clam?
I feel like
Crab legs.
If it's clams, what's Minnesota staple? The
Frog
Juicy
legs.
Lucy?
The Juicy Lucy.
Would you
Here we
run
go.
to the star and back for her?
I'm not doing a U.
what's a wait.
Juicy Lucy is a cheeseburger with the cheese
Got
inside
cheese
the meat.
inside the patty.
Inside the patty.
That sounds delicious.
Sound like some Wisconsin stuff.
Yeah.
Cheese curds.
Minnesota, maybe? I don't know.
Minnesota.
I mean, it's Midwest.
Would you take him
period.
at 26, Bobby?
Yes.
I have not watched him yet.
Okay.
Just because I haven't. I'm trying to prioritize the people I think they're going to pick as I'm like
That makes
60 players. But I need to watch him because he's.
Why don't you give us that list, Bobby? It'll
I know.
save us all the
I've
trouble
got
here of
the,
having to watch all these
who all
guys.
do we have this? Yeah, I've got the guy that stands out to me that I'm not sure how he's going to test is that he might come out here and run really slow. I know you were maybe hearing some
it's
whispers
one of
about
his wide
somebody.
receiver.
That's not my wide receiver. It is a wide receiver though. I don't know how Cedric Tillman's going to do.
I don't think he's going to run very fast either. He's
Oh,
he's going to look good in t-shirts and shorts. How big he is, I don't know if he's going to be
I think
particularly
Cedric
fast.
Tillman, like some people might come out of this going, ugh, when they see his test. And I could be proven wrong. There have been some disappointments before. There was a lot of chatter leading into last year that like Traylon Burks was going to test really well, and then he didn't test as well as they thought. There was chatter
That's
that
true.
Kyler Gordon was going to potentially be fastest guy at the combine, and he wasn't. And so
Why are you bringing up all that negativity, Bob?
I'm trying to say that this
Have you met Bobby?
This happens.
Captain
Then
negativity.
you have T.J. Watt, who people thought was going to test looking really stiff, and then didn't.
Hey, there's positive.
And so, yeah, I'm trying to give both sides of it. But Cedric Tillman's a guy who, if you're saying who's a guy who might hurt himself with his numbers this week, Tillman may not even run. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's still the same, but I know last year it was anybody who was benching was generally not going to run.
Yeah.
And if you were planning on running, you weren't going to bench.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
I would imagine that's going to be the same approach this year if they're having them do both in the same day. But I would think Tillman's a guy who I don't think is going to impress anybody with his testing.
Does anybody think that Darnell Washington, the tight end from Georgia, is going to test
He
well?
will run
I don't know.
6'3".
Wow.
You don't know for
Not a
real?
6'3".
You're not sure?
You know what?
It'll be run, Rich, run out there.
You
Okay,
know what Darnell
the 40
Washington
won't be
reminds
good.
me of, though? Do you remember Jalen Weidermeyer last year,
Yeah.
Texas A&M tight end?
He was the guy
Everybody
that
was
sat
in
on my
love with
board
him
a
early.
long time.
It was
Yeah.
everybody in love with his
You
traits
think he's going
early.
undrafted?
I don't think Darnell Washington's that, but he might have similar numbers testing-wise.
Move him to tackle and just get him
Georgia
over with.
tight end. It
He's
just
going to.
made-
Do you think he's going to weigh over 270?
Yes.
Yeah. He's at 270 on my list right now. I think he would be over that.
Man,
That's a lot, though.
How do you think Rasheed's gonna test?
SMU receiver.
I'm
talking about
4.48.
that
for
40.
speed. I mean, the 40s is going to, I don't know, 4.48, something like that.
I would take that for Rice.
That'd be a great
That's what I
time for
guess.
him.
Yeah,
Really?
that'd be cool.
Yeah,
So
he's
I
not a
know-
burner, like, he's not-
It's technically doesn't exist, but I know the listed time on him on certain services was like 4.4 earlier this year, but I don't think that's right.
Okay.
Guy Mock's probably going to test really well from North Dakota State, right?
Yeah,
State.
clearly. But are there any safeties that y'all are looking at that maybe
heck yeah.
we haven't talked DB really, and I'm very curious and like because I was
Who will
looking
do
at
well or who will do poorly?
who will test well.
The guy I really, I mean, I'm kind of like I say, I like Johnson from Texas A&M. I'm going to try and get you guys to watch Christopher Smith from Georgia.
Watched him last night. I have fallen in love with you, sir.
Yeah, and Hickman from Ohio State.
He will test well.
Yeah.
He's a speedster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Safety, corner?
Safeties, both free.
Yeah, safety.
Yeah, Christopher Smith from Georgia and then Hickman from Ohio State. Couple guys.
What about Branch from?
Man, I don't know about him.
See, that's what
I'm scared. I'm scared of Branch
where?
from Alabama.
Yep.
I'm scared.
I think Branch
There's a player I could be really wrong about. I'm really high on him, and I don't know.
Branch is going to
scare me a little bit.
The drills will be good for him.
Well, all Branch needs to do is Branch just needs to not put up a 4.6. Put up a 4.55 or something like that, and I think people will be happy with it. I think he'll run in the 4.5.
I might have to go to Tuscaloosa Pro Day and time him myself just to make sure I get a good time on him.
Do you like him?
I do, and that's what scares me. Mm-hmm. That's what scares me. We got the highlights Beam doing a great job with these highlights of the show. God, it's amazing. But yeah, I mean, this is what you get. If you're watching, you get a guy that he could play free, he could play back. As we're seeing right now, he's a punt returner. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do with this guy, and it scares me to death because he doesn't look like a traditional safety.
No.
And my eye's having trouble with that. But when you watch this tape, this is what he does. He makes plays. He's around the ball. He can tackle. He's smart. You know, I mean, Nick Saban coaches that secondary. You know they're well coached.
You mentioned Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M in that same breath. Which one do you have higher right now?
Man, I got them both in the second round. I got Branch as a strong and Johnson is a free. And it's funny because the body types don't
They flip.
Yeah, the body types are not that way. But look, I mean, you could watch this guy. They play him as like they play him down and they play him in the slot. They play him in the box. They play him back. I mean, look at this. He's we're down here on the goal line now. I know I'm doing terrible radio here because you're probably not able to watch this. But Beam is showing you highlights. And this guy's down there on the goal line and he's making tackles on the 6-yard line.
Yeah, he played good.
That's what I'm saying. This guy's got some toughness to him, but his body type doesn't fit my eye.
Oh, God.
No, his
Why?
body type.
I mean, I'm sorry. It's an old crusty man way
you're
of
right.
scouting.
His body type's like an outside corner.
Yeah.
No.
Or a slot.
There's
He could be a slot corner. That's what I thought.
That's
6 foot.
I think a lot of teams will.
We're going to play him at slot?
Maybe
won't,
move
even, won't
him.
even consider him at safety. I think
There
a lot
it
of teams.
is.
I think a lot of teams think he's a
Boom.
corner.
I was waiting for it. There it is. All right. There
Does
it
that
is.
improve
I was just
or
waiting
help
for somebody
or
to
hurt
say
his
it
draft
because this
stock?
was in my
I mean,
notes.
honestly, if you want to talk
Did
about,
you say that? Did you think he was a slot only type player?
I just think he's, like you said, his body. He's little, but he plays near the line of scrimmage a
Yeah.
lot, like you're saying. But yeah, go ahead, Bobby. My
no,
bad.
like okay, just
No, you can explain. Bobby-
So let me just lay this out for you. Who does it sound like I'm describing? You've got a Alabama defensive back who doesn't necessarily have the body type of a typical safety, but some people may think he has safety traits. You're trying to figure out, is he a safety?
Don't
is he
do
a corner?
this to me.
Who does that sound like? Alabama DB.
Was it?
It sounds like Branch, but it also sounds like Marlon Humphrey.
No.
Now Humphrey ran 4.41.
Okay.
Humphrey was faster, but Humphrey's the same body type. It was the same sort of where do you play
Marlon
that
Humphrey's
question.
a hell of a
and
player.
Humphrey's become like an all-pro type of player.
I think Humphrey's bigger though, isn't he?
No.
He looks
No,
thicker.
Humphrey's like sick, or was when he was coming
Humphrey
out.
looked bigger.
Let me see here. Marlon Humphrey when he was coming out.
I got
think
too
was
many- I got too many names in my brain.
195 or something.
He's listed at 6 foot 205.
He was 6'197". Branch is 6'192".
Yep.
I've got him at 6 foot, but you're right.
I'm scared.
I mean, I put in
I'm
my
not going to
notes.
lie.
Get a grip.
I don't have a grip.
I put in my notes I'd play Branch at corner.
Kind of going
I
along.
need to go on a walk.
Figure
this out.
Gotta start pacing. Kind of along the same lines of risky picks. Tim asked on Twitter on the 20, he says, how does missing, quote unquote, on a prospect impact the team's draft strategies moving forward? For example, the lack of production from Jalen Tolbert, how does that affect the way that they approach the draft this year? It shouldn't affect it for the most part, but it does.
Well,
100% does.
What's the so
Bobby way oversold him. That's his fault.
It's my fault. Too.
I blame
I'm
all.
sorry. I'm
No,
sorry.
don't take the blame.
You were
This is
you
a
were
Bobby.
right there. You
Bobby,
were right
I'm
there with
I'm
me.
on my walk right
You
now.
were right
Okay,
there
I'm
with
trying
me.
to figure out Branch. All right.
Hey, Jalen Tolbert's still going to turn around. I believe
Yeah,
in
he's
Jalen
going to
Tolbert.
be a
But
He's going to be all right.
what is the question about? Like, does
Saying that with some pride over there, huh?
Does what happened to Jalen or what happened with Jalen Tolbert? Like, is the question? Does that make you think differently about South Alabama type of players or players at that level? Or is he saying, does it make you reevaluate?
The tape was
Do we
good,
need
man.
to take a receiver again? Because, like, what's the
I think
question?
he's talking about positional value and looking at receiver
was
again.
good.
I don't think
Alabama.
it affects
South Alabama.
positional value.
Yeah.
I think there were things they just
Tell me, Bobby.
Missed. I think there were things about Jalen Tolbert that they've said this themselves, that they believed he could do more immediately than he could. There was a sharper learning curve than they believed. I don't think they think they're wrong about the player. I think they believe they were wrong about the timeline. And that's where they got burned.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, with that, though, you mentioned the schools and you mentioned some of the possible fallout on the other side of it. Do you think it does affect the way that they look at players coming from that specific level, that specific program?
I mean, they've never liked that level.
No, they haven't.
As long as Will's been here.
That's Will.
No doubt. But he went and picked the guy in the top 100 last year, and then he doesn't work out.
And I think they had another gentleman, if I'm not mistaken. They had another guy at
South Alabama. Yeah, they had
Jalen
another
Wayne.
receiver.
They had another guy come out this year.
Who is that guy though?
Jalen. I'm sorry, my bad.
No, I just mean
Jalen Wayne.
like, I mean, who's that guy this year? Like that stands out in the top 50. That it's like, is that a school they would stay away from? Who am I blanking on a school?
Rasheed Rice, maybe.
SMU. I don't think they would stray away from SMU.
Is Tulane
Not with Dak
is
already.
Tulane small enough?
I don't think
American, too.
Tulane. I don't think he would be a top.
My
50
gosh, they
type
beat
guy.
USC.
that's true.
Like I mean, the only one there is the.
I'm just doing everything I can to get Spears.
I know what you're saying.
Is the North Dakota State lineman? But like I was at Combine last year, and I was talking with somebody in league circles, and they were saying we got to stop calling North Dakota State a small program. They've put 3 quarterbacks in the NFL in the last 6 years.
And I saw them whoop you and I's tail.
And so,
often.
I mean, I don't know that there's a player in the top that might be impacted by
Andre
that.
Carter, maybe.
Oh, from Army?
Yeah.
Maybe.
He's interesting.
That's probably one. But with Jalen though, like a lot of from what I understood with Jalen and even touching base with him is like they didn't start. He was one of those guys that they were like, go make a play. Go make a play. Go do the thing.
At South Alabama?
It's South Alabama.
Okay.
And they didn't start really looking into working him into the slot and doing more offensively until his senior year.
He's only played football since like his sophomore year of high school.
Tracking. So he's also still getting a feel for the game. But then also too, you had CeeDee Lamb messing up on option routes. You had guys that have been in this league for a little while messing up on some of the way this offense was called and how it was played and making mistakes. So yeah, I would assume that maybe especially with that last OC, that maybe that there was some disconnect on how he's supposed to be doing things, how much of he was supposed to be doing. I think it's going to benefit him to get like, this is what you do. I told Bobby, I told Brian that I'm really looking at him. Maybe if you want him to kind of do Randall Cobb things this year, he could possibly do it. Let's see how he develops and how he does, if that fits what Mike McCarthy is looking for.
I think their thing is more, the option routes, sure. Guys struggle with that. There's miscommunication on that. The Cowboys will also tell you, you don't see all the option routes we hit. Like just because you see there's 5 of them with CeeDee Lamb, that's actually a pretty low percentage given how often he runs them. But I think more their issue is like, you got to know to line up in overtime in Lambeau where that you're lining up correctly. You got to know to check in like that. That to them I think is the stuff where it's like, okay, he's got to be ready for that.
Can I throw another name at you?
Yeah.
Because this is like when you're getting in the 3rd, 4th round, and I don't know if you guys have seen this player. Tucker Kraft, the tight end from South Dakota State.
Good player.
He's a good player, and he's going to be in that mix where you're starting to talk about compensatory picks if they get the extra 4. This team kind of likes to pick in that 3rd, 4th round, 5th round of these tight ends.
Yep.
Would they go for a guy like Tucker Kraft, who's from South Dakota State? Is that one of those things? Do you think enough of him with some of the other guys that potentially are on your board? From tight ends, if they're looking at a tight end.
Did they write off Goddard when he was coming out?
Man, I don't know.
I mean, it's the same school.
To me,
I don't know.
See, I got Laporta from Iowa and Kraft like in the same round. They're like kind of 3rd round guys for me.
See, they'd probably like Laporta because he's an Iowa kid, but I think Kraft's better.
Yeah.
And Kraft has the same skill set as
South Dakota State on Kraft.
From South Dakota State, 6'5", 253, that they like because he's a really good blocker. I think he's a sticky blocker, but he also is a big target, and I think he's a good route runner.
Didn't he struggle with drops? I haven't watched him yet, but did he struggle with drops in his last year?
My film was my film. I'm just going back and looking at what the one thing that I kind of saw that with his size, I felt like he would be more dominant as a blocker, especially playing against, some pharmacists and accountants and guys like that. No offense.
Bounce houses in the end zone.
Yeah, exactly. But this guy, he blocks really tall, and he just tries to kind of muscle his guy. So I kind of felt like that, to me, the thing that was also inviting, inline, flexed, wing, wide.
Yes.
I mean, I think he's a better receiver than he is a blocker. So by me saying that, I don't think the hands.
Okay.
I kind of felt like that they were reliable in that way. Maybe we'll get to it, and he can't catch a cold. But
Could be.
I don't think that. I don't think there's a bad player. But again, I was bringing up the school that when you start talking about South Alabama, and then you can.
Yeah, quote unquote smaller school.
Old Dominion. We got a couple offensive linemen from Old Dominion.
Yeah, got
as
a
well.
tackle from Old
What
Dominion.
about? Didn't Tyler Smith come from
Tulsa?
Tulsa?
That's an American conference.
It truly is, but
Yeah.
we don't see.
You must be
pick from-
listening to us on the G-Bag Nation, because we have a guy that we work with that wants nothing to do with Tulsa.
Well, he's a bit of a schmuck.
They don't pick that much from there. Stop! Don't say
Is
that.
it Eric or Gavin?
Eric.
Eric. Eric wants nothing to do with Tulsa.
I was literally there Tuesday. It was all right.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Yeah.
And look, even with Tolbert and where he came from, when Tolbert played big programs like Tennessee, Tolbert
He balled
Tolbert cooked Alontae Taylor,
He
who went in
balled
the top
out.
50 last year. So, I wouldn't think that it would be anything that they would say, oh, well, because of Tolbert here, it's going to change the way we view this guy here.
All right, so we've now gone back to Jalen Tolbert again. I feel like we're going to continue doing that. No, it's not your bad. I think we're going to continue doing that because that's the biggest storyline from last year's draft. That's the biggest thing that really hurt where this team could be right now. But like you said, it probably shouldn't sway them away or to a certain position.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Tolbert or Sam Williams breakout player next year?
Williams.
Yeah, I guess Sam is easier.
No, you got to go
think it's
Tolbert.
What? What you mean?
You got to stick with your guy.
Who's going to break out?
Have the bigger year.
Bigger year. Tolbert or Williams?
Probably Sam. Well, depends on who they bring back. But that's not fair, y'all. That's not right. No, I was gonna say that some of these players were raw though. Kind of.
Yeah.
That's kind of a common. That was a similar kind of common thing with this past draft. Is you had Tyler come in, who I felt like needed, obviously needed improvement. You had Sam come in. Sam's very vocal about being as raw as he was as a player coming here. And then you talk about Jalen. I wonder if that's something that they're kind of looking at as far as being able to somewhat mold these guys into what because you definitely saw Sam start to flourish through the season. Tyler as well. So
I like that idea. I like the fact that there's raw traits, but in the second round and the third round, that's where I kind of start.
It stresses you out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you're a top 100 pick, I want you to play.
Jalen is. You're in the same ballpark as me, Bobby. Where it's hard to.
I wanted to take Jalen over Sam Williams in the second round.
That's what I'm
last year.
saying.
But Sam is more likely to have a bigger year next year, I think.
Tolbert.
What do you think?
Tolbert.
Oh, yeah.
I think they both could play well. I think they both could bounce back. But I think Sam Williams is, as long as he's not doing
not
the
as bad
Joseph
as
Asai thing
Tolbert's
up
not
there.
as bad as
don't
everybody.
say that.
Yeah.
No,
I don't think
Tolbert
so
is
either.
not as bad.
Yeah.
But Brian is wrong. Sam Williams is about to.
So I'm doing radio with you guys, not in the
Breakout.
front office.
Yeah, because he's also too we don't know who they're bringing back DN wise. Dante Fowler is a guy. This gentleman could definitely see far more snaps than even what he did last year. So
Interesting thought. I like the question, Brian. A little thought-provoking here as we go into our second
Go
segment.
get him, Tolbert.
When we come back, we're going to talk trenches.
Oh.
Let's talk some of the big hog mileys up front. Let's talk some of the offensive linemen, defensive linemen. Where could the Cowboys potentially invest in both of those things? When we come back with more of the Draft Show.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com is one of the most trusted ways to buy, sell, and trade crypto. Whether you're always on the go or stay closer to home, Blockchain.com is just a few taps away. Put the power of crypto in your pocket, so no matter where you are, you can trade on your terms and build a crypto portfolio to fit your life. For crypto pros, rookies, and anyone in between, Blockchain.com makes it easy to own a piece of the future. Blockchain.com, trusted by millions, trusted by America's team.
In a stressful world, Lincoln provides balance and calm amidst the chaos by creating sanctuaries that move you through the world with ease. Our vehicles make your time richer and more uplifting with human-centric design, intelligent technology, and powerful performance. As the official luxury vehicle of the Dallas Cowboys, driving a Lincoln is just another way to show your team pride. Experience our full lineup of luxury vehicles, including the Corsair, Aviator, Navigator, and Nautilus at Lincoln.com.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, sinking, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with pre-game sideline access and photo ops with current players, cheerleaders, and Cowboy legends. You want to stay at a team hotel, attend the best tailgate party in Texas, tour the Star, and talk X's and O's with me, Everson Walls? With Star Sports Tours, you can. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Final segment here of the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite this week from the Star. Bobby Belt, Brian Broaddus, Zach Wolchuk, Aisha Morrison. I'm Kyle Yeomans. We've got Chris Beam and Jazz Marshall in the back. Putting that up there. Oh, Northwestern was the guy you were talking about?
Yes.
So I want to talk about offensive and defensive lines because there are different times in this draft the Cowboys will invest in the trenches. It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
May not be in the first round.
Let's potty.
But how quickly could you see Dallas investing, and what are some of the names outside of the first round that you would be okay with investing in?
What is trenches? We're talking just the edge rushers, the D tackles, offensive line, or just how likely are they to pick somebody who could be an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman?
What is
this? The last one.
Then they could. I mean, they could pick that as early as 26.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me the name of the kid from Clemson that the defensive?
Breesy.
It's Breesy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Please let somebody pick him before Dallas gets an opportunity.
I'm with you, man.
Like that?
Because he's overrated as heck.
Oh, y'all.
I mean, he's a I don't see it guy.
Me too.
He was such a disappointment at Clemson.
And I don't want to be that guy, but I am that guy because I love the show and I love educating people. I'm sorry, I'm putting it out there. I'm scared to death of him too. And if all of a sudden he comes sliding down that board and he's within range of 26 and they pick him, man, I'm going to have a hard time. I really, really am. Especially if I know that some of these other guys, maybe some of these offensive linemen, we've talked about the center and people like that, but he's the one guy, again, another show, another day of guys you have a chance to be really, really wrong about. He's one of those guys for me.
6'5", 305. His grave and his headstone are on delivery now because Brian just killed the guy.
I'm sorry, Brees.
Why don't you see it? What is the knock on him so much so that it would be a bad pick at 26?
All right, let me see what we got going here. I just
because a lot of people like him.
I know, and everybody tells me watch the North Carolina film. And I'm trying to effort that right now.
I'll get it.
But you should counter with watch the Notre Dame film, and he gets pushed around and bullied.
See, that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's snaps where this guy, for a big guy, he gets knocked off balance. And he wasn't able to recover. He gets real tall, gives up his chest. I know we're watching highlights of him like destroying. It looks like Wake Forest or somebody like that. But it's like more movement than technique to get to the to be a rusher and stuff like that. I think he's the Florida State game. He had a couple of chances to get his guy on the ground and just missed. Just couldn't do it. And the effort and the hands and all that, good defending the run, but I think these people are hyping this guy way, 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 way up.
He just got one-armed by a Wake Forest offensive guard.
That's what I'm saying.
It really wasn't good.
Yeah.
It was not a good rep. A couple of them. And he's just, after the play, he's swiping away. He's pulling the DB where he's throwing his arms up in the air.
There's been some really good 1s and 3s that we've watched so far this year. And he does scare me. He really does scare me. I don't see him as being that guy that everybody's talking about. When I keep seeing him get mocked, and he's like in the top 12, 13, right around there, I'm like, man, I must be missing this guy really bad.
It's always, to me anyway, it's always concerning when you're talking about a guy who was like the top recruit in the country, was supposed to be like the top of a class, and then he comes in and disappoints like he does. He's a guy who got hurt at Clemson a few different times, so there's injury questions there with him.
Got a huge brace on that right shoulder, too, is another thing you're dealing with.
I don't think this guy's ever going to rush the passer.
Yeah.
Ever. And in terms of the run play, he's got to be better about his technique, getting off a block. I mean, there are too many times, like you said, where he can't get off a block or he ends up on the ground.
He plays really tall.
Yeah,
he just like
great.
yeah. In the NFL, you give one of these offensive linemen your chest, they will steer you all over the place. And so that's a guy I have a chance to be really, really wrong. I know that if it turns into a rookie of the year kind of guy or all rookie team, I'll wear it. But man, the tape to me is just it's not for what they're talking about. I just don't see it.
Let me give you a guy. As we just completely, as you mentioned, we got the tombstone on the way. Let me spin a positive for you.
Okay.
Here's a guy that maybe 4th round, maybe even day 3. All right. And I don't know if you've all watched him. It's an LSU guy here, Brian.
Oh God.
Jacqueline Roy.
I was just about to ask about the
LSU, 6'3", 315. This is a dude you could wait on. I don't know why more people aren't buzzing about this dude. Because I think he does a little bit of both. I think he can push the pocket, he can get after the quarterback, and he can play the run. He's a big trash can full of dirt kind of guy. He's got a good anchor. He can take on multiple blockers for you, so that's going to help the Cowboys in terms of being able to fill the middle there and help you against the run. He's also really good with his hands, which is something I'm looking for with these guys. Gets pressure. He's got a high motor for a big man. I love that as a trait. Now, if you get him sideways, that's when he can get pushed off the ball. But otherwise, he's got a really good bull rush when he's playing against guards that he just puts them back into the lap of the quarterback, plays the run, wins with his spin move. I think he's really good, and I don't know why guys don't have him ranked higher personally. But I think he could be a steal, especially if you get him early in day 3.
Could it be the strength? Because I've watched the Florida game. That was the only one that I got a chance to watch, so I'm limited on what I've seen. The one knock I had against him was I didn't think he was as strong as his size indicates at the point of attack. Because 6'4", 315, like you said, he can play 3, he can play nose. He can do both of them because he's athletic enough and he's got the movement ability. I think that's certainly there. But I didn't see him completely win some of those battles against good offensive linemen against Florida. It was a good offensive line up front that he was going against. Torrance was one of the guys.
And that's a good point because Torrance did. Torrance was able to win some of those battles 100%.
I don't dislike Roy. I haven't seen enough of him. But the strength was my question. Do you think he has the strength to win those battles?
I personally do.
Okay.
But, that's also a reason why we're not talking about him as a first-round, second-round kind of guy. But I think if you're able to get him, as a 4th or 5th-round player, which right now I think that's kind of the area that people are looking at him, I'd be thrilled. And I think you've got a guy that could possibly be an impact player right away, personally.
He's from your Tigers, Brian. Have you gotten a chance to watch him?
I think Zach's got him. Aisha, have you seen him at all? Have you watched him at all?
No.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to. Okay, I didn't know if you want to jump in there. Yeah, I to me though, I'm always really kind of reluctant for these LSU kids because I love them all so much.
Yeah.
But I think Zach has got him exactly right, and I think your concerns about some of the power stuff are legitimate. I think the guy plays with tremendous effort, and he just doesn't want to be moved, and that's the thing about him is he can get off those blocks and make those plays. You see the hole kind of open up, and then all of a sudden he's there making a tackle. So I feel like that he's got that kind of ability, though. Really, just a big, powerful guy, I think. But yeah, I could see where sometimes though he gets bullied a little bit.
Texas, are you a Texas fan, Bobby?
Yep, hook 'em.
So what do you think about Keandre Coburn?
I've not watched his tape yet as a player. He was okay.
Go for it.
He wasn't a guy that I loved just watching him on broadcast.
Go for it. Phil, because I'll back you on this one.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm going to just kind of read what I said. So hopefully this is right.
Coburn from Texas is what
Coburn, Coburn from Texas, 6'2", 339 pounds. I said he has a compact build. I feel like they also use him at edge sometimes. He can be crafty, but I think he sets the edge effectively.
Yep.
Also, too, he required a double team quite a bit when I saw him, and that's something you're obviously looking for. He uses his natural leverage to win at the point of attack. Yep. So I feel like He's an athlete. He's an athlete, and he's very quick to react to the ball. So I feel like he's a very coachable guy, a guy that can get better. He's a strong tackler. He has good hands, and he can shed and tackle. But the fact that he
345 too.
Oh,
he's
bigger
quick?
now. Yeah. He's pretty quick and he
Ooh.
can run. But I also feel like just how much he required a double team is something that people are going to see and possibly respect. So with D lineman, I really respect pursuit.
Yeah.
Like I really do. And his backside pursuit, for him to be such a big guy, he shows enough speed to recover. And
Boy,
help
you
out
nailed
there.
him.
I like him a lot.
Yeah,
I like him a lot. I know you're not a huge fan.
I haven't watched his tape yet, just from watching him on broadcast during the season. He was fine, but he didn't stand out to me as anybody that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though.
He can be a lower.
Alabama couldn't move the ball on these guys running it.
Yeah.
I mean, and then they popped some runs on the outside, but
That's the
later
game.
on. But, man, you watch this guy. I think you got him dead on right. To me, like I say, I mean, and the last thing I said is he doesn't kill the grass under his feet. He's just not going to sit in there. He's going to play the pursuit to get to the outside, though. I love what I'm seeing with some of these guys, these 330, 340-pound defensive tackles that can move. I think Aisha's got him absolutely right.
That's a big body with a motor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he
Absolutely.
does. He has a good. He has a good motor to me, but he moves people around, and I like him. So that's someone I've just been keeping my eye on, and he's in Texas, so obviously he might get the Dallas Day and all that stuff. They might have some eyes on him.
He's from
early.
Houston, and he played at Texas, so he wouldn't be a Dallas Day guy.
Okay, well,
However,
he's not far.
Yeah.
We'll fudge it. We'll
Pro
get him
Bowl-
here.
Yeah, I like that.
He went to
Let's
middle
fudge
school.
it.
In,
He can
in
stay at my
Frisco.
house if he wants to get a visit.
Yeah, we'll
I
be
like the
ass.
player.
Who do y'all? If y'all watched Mozzie Smith in Avalia?
From Michigan.
Yes, from Michigan.
Yes.
Who won that? If y'all watched that game, who won the battle between him and Avalia?
And TCU's
and
Avila.
TCU and Avila, right.
I think Avila won.
I think
that
Avila
battle.
won too.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the worst games that I saw from Smith.
From Smith. I would agree with that.
Okay,
I
that's-
didn't think he had the impact that he wanted to have in
Exactly.
that semifinal,
Okay.
no doubt.
Sorry.
All right. That does it for us here from the Draft Show. The next time you'll hear our show, we will be from Indianapolis in the NFL
The
scouting
lucky folks that
combine.
get to go.
Yeah. You're going to be in Arizona, right?
Yeah, I'll be watching baseball, but I will be on that draft
Yes,
show.
you will.
I figured out how to get on the camera now.
We're going to make it work.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. So
Thank
we'll
you.
have a lot coming your way. We've got a ton of content coming your way over the next couple weeks. For Bobby Belt, Brian Broaddus, Zach Wolchuk, Aisha Morrison, I'm Kyle Yeomans, Chris Beam, and Jazz Marshall in the back. So long on the Draft Show. We'll see you next week.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!